Hey guys, how's it going? Kripparrian here. Today I want to talk about the new arena changes that Blizzard has talked about that will be coming soon in an upcoming patch. And that might mean like tomorrow, or it might mean like a couple weeks from now. But regardless, the substance is very interesting. So, we talked a lot about Arena, the current state, and the fact that the assigned rarities of the cards that keep being released seem to favor the very strong classes and seem to punish the very weak classes, and that's an ongoing problem that has built up over time to a point where it's very difficult to actually solve in one expansion. I would argue it's actually impossible to solve with one expansion because the good classes in Arena have so many good Arena cards and the bad classes in Arena have so many crappy Arena cards. So, they've tried to solve this problem. They try to come up with a solution. The solution they've come up with has to do with just removing cards from the draft pool. And, this is a solution they've implemented on a card like Purify. When Purify was released, we talked to Blizzard. Maybe this card would, maybe completely screw over Priest in Arena because it's a common card. It'll show up constantly because you have to remember common cards are the most common ones in your Arena draft, and not only that, it's a class card. Class cards show up twice as often as non-class card, and it's also a card in the last expansion, meaning that it will show up, I don't know what the occurrence bonus is, but from League of Explorers, which is the last adventure, it was ×2, so it's probably slightly more than that. So if Purify was in the game, Purify would show up a crazy amount, more than one per deck on average, which is really high in terms of drafting and, consistency and all that. So what did Blizzard do? Blizzard, what they did is they removed cards, I would say very strategically, from the powerful Arena classes. So they still have a lot of their powerful cards, but they get fewer of them. And the classes that are not performing so well, which is the majority, have like all of their terrible cards removed from the set. So let's just go over the cards so we can have an idea how Blizzard did this. So for Mage, they didn't lose too many power cards. They have Forgotten Torch, just direct damage. They have Snow Chugger. It's probably the most interesting card that they have removed from the entire list here. So the reason I think Snow Chugger is so interesting is because Snow Chugger is not... It's not a great card. It's a good card, but it's not a great card. But what Snow Chugger does is it fixes some of the bad matchups that Mage has. And this is a very, this is a point we've brought up a few times, where Mage used to get countered by like Warrior, but recently it just doesn't. Mage just beats its bad matchups. But, in the past, when I would play like 6 Mages in a row on my last Arena run, I'd be like, well, I just want to play a deck that would just, crap on all these Mages. And I see Warrior, I pick Warrior, I get the weapons, I go face, and that's actually how Mage loses badly and consistently to Warrior. But if they have a Snow Chugger, you can't do that. So it's not like Snow Chugger is really carrying Mage throughout, the Arena experience, but what it is doing is it's improving substantially, in some cases, the bad matchups that Mage has, or I would probably more accurately say used to have. So removing Snow Chugger from the pool makes it so only Water Elemental is there to constantly freeze weapon classes, and honestly, I think that is an extremely big deal, because Mage is going to go from, nobody but Mage can beat Mage unless you go first against Mage and race them on Flame Strike, and that's kind of a frustrating way to play the game, by the way. Or, maybe now you can pick Warrior, or maybe you can pick a few other weapon classes. Mages have a lot of control cards, but they have a lot of difficulty controlling someone going to their face with a weapon after they've had an initiative on the board. So, maybe people can actually counter Mage now. That would be interesting, and this is a very cool way to solve it. Then we have Faceless Summoner. Faceless Summoner, again, very powerful. I think it's the most powerful card on this list. I think Faceless Summoner is just kind of frustrating to play against, and it's just so ridiculously powerful in Arena. This will make Mage, on average, in Arena worse. And the reason I think they picked this card is because it's not iconic of the Mage class. When you think of Faceless Summoner, you don't think of like Mage. They could have made Faceless Summoner on every single other class, and it would have like made sense, I guess, right? So it's interesting. Mage will definitely be worse after these cards are removed from their drafting selections. Then we have a Rogue. Rogue has the removal of Goblin Autobarber, which is one of the best cards they get, and Undercity Valiant. So these two cards are definitely some of those powerful Rogue cards that they do get, but again, they're not iconic of the Rogue class. And if you take a look at, what some of the best Rogue class common cards are from the drafting options, really there's not very many super powerful ones. Like Mage and to a lesser degree Paladin gets carried by its ridiculously strong common class cards. Rogue certainly has a decent number of them, but not even close to the other two classes, yet it's considered better than Paladin. This is because of the Rogue Hero Power. The Rogue Hero Power in Arena is just completely insane. So my point is, when they are removing two of the absolute best cards Rogue can get in the common slot, that affects Rogue a lot. I actually think these nerfs, I think these changes nerf Rogue much more than they do Mage. So I still think Mage might be the most powerful class after these changes, but I think Rogue will actually be grouped up with the other classes. Paladin gets no changes, so I guess this is kind of where they want the classes in general to be. They want Paladin to be like par, basically, from my understanding. And I think that's pretty fair. Paladin's very strong. If you get specific cards, you can feel invincible. But, you absolutely get countered by a few other classes, a few other specific cards. And, sometimes you just won't do well because you face a lot of those classes. And this counter pick metagame, I think, is a very interesting one that can be expanded on. And I think Paladin is actually in a pretty healthy spot in Arena right now. So I think they did pick a wise class to try to group them all on that power level. And we have all the classes from this point, they just remove all the really crappy class cards they have available. So they're removing Vitality Totem, Dust Devil, Totemic Might, Ancestral Healing, Dunemaul Shaman, and Windspeaker. Now, if you haven't heard of any of those cards playing Shaman, it's because they're terrible. Similarly, Warlock is losing Anima Golem, Sacrificial Pact, Curse of Rapham, Sense Demons, Void Crusher, Reliquary Seeker, Succubus. None of those will be missed. Druid's losing Savagery, Poison Seeds, Soul of the Forest, Mark of Nature, Tree of Life, Astral Communion. Now, I think Mark of Nature is a card I would not remove from drafting. I think Mark of Nature, on one hand, is actually descriptive of the Druid class, and on top of that, I think it is not that bad of a card. Now, I'm not saying it's a great card, but also Druid doesn't need that much help. I think Druid is near Paladin level, so I think with these changes, actually Druid will gain a lot after the upcoming changes. Warrior is losing Warsong Commander, Bolster, Charge, Bouncing Blade, Axe Flinger, Rampage, Ogre Wormwall. Again, none of those will be missed. Hunter's losing Starving Buzzard, Call Pet, Timberwolf, Cobra Shot, Lock and Load, and again, in Arena they've got many spells to work with a card like that. Dart Trap and Snipe. Again, Snipe is a very interesting one, but it does just get countered a lot. They've just released so many Death Rattle, Divine Shield, you have to kill 2-3 different time minions, and a card like this is just frustrating. So I don't think it's a card that's bad, it's just a card that it's not fun. You play Snipe, you're going to be disappointed. Priest is losing Mind Blast, Shadow Bomber, Lightwell, Power Word, Glory, Confuse, Convert, and Inner Fire. So, the classes that are not Mage, Rogue, and Paladin are losing a lot. In fact, I would argue almost all of their crappy class cards. And this is pretty good. This is very interesting. Now, let's just talk about for a second on what one bad class card means to a class. And we had the prime example of this with Warriors and TGT when they got Bolster. So, just because they had this one card, just because they had Bolster, and it was a common card, it was a class card, and it was of the recent expansion, so it had a stack, the biggest stack, in fact, of occurrence bonuses, you would draft Warrior, and you would see 2 or 3 Bolsters throughout your draft. So, because of that, while, you would just pick one of the other 2 options, that's fair. Some people might not understand. It's you're just removing these bad cards, but you're not going to pick them anyway. It's not about that. It really is not. If you have tried to pick a Warrior during TGT when Bolster was a thing, you would know that the main problem is when you get Bolster, along with 2 other really crappy cards, have to pick one, draw exactly that card, and then lose the game because your deck has a terrible card quality, right? So it's just that if you don't have bad cards, you're very unlikely to be in that situation where you have to pick a very crappy one. Now, you're still going to get some of those situations. I mean, in any rarity slot, there's 3 terrible neutral minions you might have to choose between. That's possible, but it's so much less likely when these cards are out of the set. And that, again, is a very big deal. And the other thing is, in Arena, the classes that are good, Mage and Rogue, they get consistency from their hero power. If they have a bad card in their draft, they can actually kind of, move around. They can manage that situation. But if you're playing Warrior, and you have to rely on like a 1/4/3 drop, there is no recovery. You're screwed. So, the bad classes in Arena are more affected by bad cards as well. So again, it's very good, very smart way to do it, that they're going to, remove all the bad class cards from their set. So, but again, there's still going to be bad cards. It's just the classes that aren't doing too well in Arena will be less likely to run into situations where you're forced to pick one. Now, in terms of like raw significance, I can't really tell you guys what it's like because I don't know the mechanics behind Hearthstone. I don't know how the cards are rolled when they're drafted. So, when you see 3 cards in front of you, I don't know how the back end of the game works. So, I don't know if the game does work this way, but, hypothetically, if the game did roll, like, is this going to be a class card and then it fills the slot in? If it is like that, if it works that way, these changes are monumental. Because not only are you not going to see these bad cards, but you're going to see much more of the other cards which are not crap. So you're going to see much more good options instead of bad options. And that is a huge difference. But again, I don't know if it works that way. It might just be out of the whole set, it just rolls them all at once. And, the changes will be smaller if that is the way that it works. And, there's probably a combination of factors. It's probably not straightforward. But, just so we understand, it's very difficult to understand the scale of these changes. But my opinion is the same. I think when you take a format like Arena, you change it, substantially all at once, a few different things happen. One, the metagame kind of changes. People are curious to see what are the good classes, what can you do in Arena now, and people just be like revitalized. Like I am very much looking forward to playing Arena once these changes go through. And am I looking forward to playing Arena right now? Not so much, actually. No. But even if the changes do nothing, the exploration of the new style of Arena that we're going to receive is something I am very much looking forward to. And I think because a lot of people will have the same mindset, Arena will be great. Even if these changes do nothing, even if the hierarchy and the win rates and everything does nothing, and by the way, that's not going to happen, but even if it does absolutely nothing, it would still be good because people will once again be interested in Arena. More people will play. More people will have that sense of discovery, that sense of opportunity. And, in my opinion, that is the absolute best part of a card game. So, yeah, I think good things are happening. I think even though this is kind of like a very patchy temporary fix, which they have admitted that it is, it's about as good as they could have got away with for now. And hopefully their long-term plans will once again revitalize Arena whenever those come to fruition. But until then, I think we're going to have a lot of fun in the future of Arena, and we'll see how that goes when the time comes. For now, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.